in one of the wings of the fenders, discovered that there is a crack in it, and it looks like a little bit of a dent, cracked across the bottom there. And then what they did is they riveted in a small strip of metal behind the back here of the lip to hold it, and then they bonded it over, but it didn't really hold it very well, and that's not the way to fix a fender crack like that. And so what I'm doing is drilling out the rivets here to take this little back plate off that they put in, and we will fix the crack correctly across both things, and I will put another little plate in here to strengthen this, but I'll spot weld it in place rather than using rivets. And rivets didn't really do the job here. So here is the bit that was riveted in there. It's a pretty thin piece of steel. Has the yellow paint, which was one of the colors that at least part of the car was painted. And there's where I've drilled out the rivets. And that's what we have to get at. Use a hammer and dolly to get that flatter and better. And then we will weld in a piece across the back here, a very small, thin piece, which will cut. And hopefully we can just get in there with a spot welder. And then we can take care of the crack here. And what we want to do is make sure that it's not going to spread any further. And the way that's done is we'll put a small hole here at the end of it. And then we'll close this up with as low a temperature welding as we can possibly do, and have this as absolutely solidly welded across here, a little piece of metal to hold this all. Okay, what I've done here is put a small hole at the head of the crack, well ahead of it, and that dissipates then this stress. Now, some people say that if you're going to weld it up, you don't have to do that. If you simply want to stop the crack and you're not going to weld it up. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. Probably be a little bit stronger. I'm also going to be putting a backing plate on here. That's going to attach to this rim. And hopefully then this crack is going to completely disappear, and we can take care of it with body work so you'll never see it. Okay, so here's the piece that we're going to be spot welding in on the flange, then pressing against here and welding down into where the crack is, and hopefully then that's going to seal this crack up for good. So what I'm doing is, you don't want to leave the crack tight like that. You need to V it out a little bit so that you have contact on both sides. And so I'm using a Dremel here to open up that crack a little bit, V it out a little bit below the hole I drilled. So I've got good contact on both sides to hold it together. Okay, so I've been doing a little bit of hammer and dolly work to try to get this as tight against the side of the fender and get back the original radius of the rim here, and have this repair piece super tight against that rim, so I can spot weld that into place and hold, and then weld through the crack, through the little hole I put at the top, and then seal it up, and hopefully that's going to give us a really nice permanent repair here. But still a work in progress. Okay, after I got the fit that I wanted, I've channeled out everything. I've hit the inner surfaces with a weld-through primer, both the inner surfaces of the repair section and the inner surfaces of the little repair piece that I made. And that's to help hold off rust as much as possible. So I'm going to have a cup of tea and let that dry. Okay, now I'm going to spot weld my little piece onto here and hold that together. And that should do it for the first one. Okay, and now I'm moving to the other side of the crack, and we're going to put a spot weld down here. And that should do it. We'll keep moving along here till the bottom is well spot welded on. Okay, so thanks to the spot welder now, that bottom plate is very, very nicely spot welded in there. I didn't put one in the center because obviously that's where there's a crack and we're going to weld that from the other side. But that's much better than the kind of loose rivets they had in there in the repair they had previously. So I'm going to start by putting my first weld down here on the bottom side of the rim, having this pressed up hard against that little repair piece I put in, and just to put a tack in there to kind of hold things together. And then I'll turn my attention to the top part of the crack that I drilled out. And, you know, we don't want to distort the metal, so this is going to be a slow process. Okay, at the end of the day, there's the crack welded up a bit beyond it. Not the most smoothest, evenest weld in the world. Not too happy about that. However, you know, it's going to be ground down a bit more, and then we're going to, you know, obviously it's going to be eventually blocked and all of that. So it's probably going to work just fine for what it is. Not my best weld, though, I will say.